at this moment, we have just passed exactly the one-third mark of this race. The leader is Cale Yarborough in car number 11, but it's a real battle for the lead. In second place, number 72, Benny Parsons. In third place, and really the car to watch at the moment, is number 1, Donnie Allison. In fourth place, the defending champion here, number 88, Darrell Waltrip. And just behind them is Bobby Allison, but he is maybe 30 laps behind the leaders because they had completely replaced the transmission in his car earlier after he had sat on the pole and had led the race originally. Then his brother Donnie took the lead. Then there was a crash, and on the shuffling of the pit stop, Cale Yarborough, who started in the 7th row, way back in 13th place, moved into first. The reason he had started way back there was on the first qualifying day, he had crashed his car, had to qualify on the second day, and therefore was behind all the first day qualifiers. It is Yarborough in the lead right now. I'm here with Jackie Stewart in our commentary booth on a perfect day, temperature 80 degrees, no clouds. Let's take a look at that crash that happened just a little bit earlier, Jackie. Here it is.
And here they come into turn 1. They've already come in at over 150 miles an hour. And there you see the first car spinning. All of that smoke is tire smoke. No other driver can see a thing behind it. They're engulfed in it. And that's at this time where the impact takes place. All 3 cars damaged. Chuck Bowen was the man in car number 77 that started it. Then Ronnie Comet came in and hit. And then Blackie Wangerin also involved. No driver hurt. A typical NASCAR action. Everybody got out safely because of these wonderfully built cars.
But it was on the ensuing yellow flag that Cale Yarborough took the lead, which he still holds by that narrow margin over Benny Parsons, with Donnie Allison third, remember, and Darrell Waltrip fourth. That's the situation here. Now for more of what you'll be seeing on Wide World, again, Frank Gibson. Okay, live report from Darlington, South Carolina on this year's Rebel 500. We're live, as I said, and the leader in the race right now is Benny Parsons in car number 72. And now Darrell Waltrip has just gotten by him and taken the lead in car number 88. The defending champion, Benny Parsons, is second now. We'll be back here over most of these ABC stations following the boxing, except for some areas of the Southeast, for live coverage to the finish. Now again, Keith Jackson. In Darlington, South Carolina. That's the leader of the race. Number 1, appropriately, is Donnie Allison of the Racing Allison from Hueytown, Alabama. In second place is the two-time the last 2 years, national champion of NASCAR, Cale Yarborough. Then Benny Parsons, number 72, Dave Marcus, number 2, and the defending champion, number 88, Darrell Waltrip, who had led a little bit earlier, but is now dropping back after an exchange of pit stops under the yellow flag. We'll be back here over most of these ABC stations, except for some parts of the Southeast, for live coverage to the finish of this race, immediately after the boxing. That'll be on most of these stations. Again, the leader at the moment, Donnie Allison, then Cale Yarborough and Benny Parsons. Again, to Keith Jackson. McKay with a final live interim report on the Rebel 500 stock car race from Darlington, South Carolina. In just 6 minutes, our live coverage will continue until the finish of this race over most of these ABC stations, except for portions of the Southeast. The leader, the man who has regained the lead, is Cale Yarborough in car number 11. Second place, Donnie Allison. In third place, we have Benny Parsons. Then Dave Marcus, and the defending champion in the race, Darrell Waltrip. That's coming up live over most of these stations, except for certain portions of the Southeast. We'll be back right now again, Keith Jackson. Picture is live on a gorgeous spring afternoon in Darlington, South Carolina. The temperature about 80 degrees. The sky is clear. And the leader in the Rebel 500 race is Cale Yarborough, a native of Timmonsville, South Carolina, about 15 miles from this racetrack. He always likes to win at Darlington, but he's never won this race in his long and very illustrious career. He's won the Southern 500, but not this one. There's the standings at the moment. Yarborough and Donnie Allison, Benny Parsons, Dave Marcus, Darrell Waltrip, the defending champion in this race. Those are the leaders. We passed the 300-mile mark. Also in today's Wide World of Sports, we'll be seeing a remarkable display of skydiving with some 50 skydivers. This, however, is live. That will be on film, so stand by until the finish. The sun is beginning to move low into the sky of a beautiful day in Darlington, South Carolina. The leader in the Rebel 500 is still Cale Yarborough. There have been other leaders, to be sure. There's been Bobby Allison in the early going. He was the pole sitter, but he's been into the garage area several times and is no longer a factor. Donnie Allison, his brother, then took the lead. Darrell Waltrip, the defending champion in this race, briefly led, but it's been Cale Yarborough for a good while now. The young man, born near here in Timmonsville, still lives in this area. The crowd cheering him on every lap because, although he's won the Southern 500 on this track, he has never won the Rebel. And, of course, he'd like to add it to the list of victories in his illustrious career. This is Jim McKay at our commentary position as we come to you live with Jackie Stewart, former three-time world driving champion. Down in the pit area, we have Chrissy Kanamaki, as always, the editor of National Speed Sport News, who'll be reporting on developments down there from here until the finish line. As I said earlier, we're well past the 300-mile mark now. As a matter of fact, we're approaching the two-third point of the race. There are a total number of laps of 367 on this track. It's 1.366 miles in length. In other words, it's not nearly as long as most of the other super speedways, places like Daytona, as the principal example. This is 1.366. It's the oldest of all the super speedways, having opened 28 years ago, and it's the most difficult. You know, Jackie, they always refer to this as its driver's course. In other words, that the relative importance of car to driver is more important here than on the other super speedways. Would you like to explain that?
Well, first of all, I think we've got to recognize that Darlington, in fact, is not an oval. It's an egg-shaped racetrack. One end of it is narrower than the other. Turns 1 and 2 of the short end of the egg, and turns 3 and 4 of the large side of the egg. This means that the race driver has to concentrate perhaps more than he would do at the normal oval. I would say this is closer to road racing than any other racetrack that these NASCAR vehicles go on the oval racetrack. Of course, they do Riverside in California once a year, but really this is a very difficult track. It's very bumpy. The racetrack here has always been criticized for its surface, very slippery, and it seems to break up. Below our commentary position here going into turn 1, the track is breaking up, certainly not looking good, but from the driver's point of view, a great test.
Okay, the leader still, Cale Yarborough. Benny Parsons has moved past Donnie Allison into second place in the standings. In fourth, we have Dave Marcus, then Darrell Waltrip, the defending champion, Lenny Pond, and Richard Petty. Those 7 cars, and only those 7 cars, are still in the same lap. That means, however, in the event of the yellow flag, that any of them are still potential winners of this race. Right now, let's get one of those reports from the pit area that I was talking about from Chrissy Kanamaki.
Right, Jim. There's a very attractive black and gold car 22 out on the track. It was started by Ricky Rudd, the youngster from the Carolinas who won the Rookie of the Year award last year. But right after they caught a 500, his mother committed suicide, and he doesn't seem to have the spirit to race. We pulled in the pits a while ago and turned the car over to Chuck Bound of California, who went out of the race early on a neck-wrenching crash. So Bound is on the track now, substituting for Rudd in number 22. Another interesting story on the track is that of Buddy Baker. He's 1 lap down in 9th place. Buddy was with the leaders, hit the 4th turn wall, and spun around, stopped on his own yellow flag to have the damage repaired, and went back out without losing a lap. We spoke to his illustrious father, Buddy Baker, who said this track is so narrow and so slippery, I told Buddy not to race a soul out there to the last 100 miles. Find a place all alone and stay there and stay out of trouble. Back to you, Jim.
Okay, Cale Yarborough is still the leader, but into the pits, under the green flag, comes Richard Petty, who has not been a factor in this race so far today. However, he has been on the same lap with the leaders. Now he is not.
Well, Richard Petty, a man with enormous experience who's had a very dry spell in motor racing recently. He hasn't been getting the victories that King Richard is used to, nor his crew. Very efficient pit stop as ever, but there he went out on a green, remember, and this could be very costly for Richard Petty in this race.
Okay, however, the fact that he has gone in under the green flag would indicate that a number of the other leaders may also have to come in under the green in a few laps. Of course, if a yellow flag comes out, that would be to the detriment of Petty and to the benefit of them. In the lead, Cale Yarborough is still all by himself. There's a good race for second going on between Benny Parsons in car number 72 and car number 1, Donnie Allison. Donnie Allison led this race for a good while. Benny led it very briefly, as did Darrell Waltrip. Darrell Waltrip at the moment, remember, is back in 5th place behind Dave Marcus, who is 4th in car number 2.
Well, of course, there's nobody wants to win this race more than Cale Yarborough. If he were to win this race today, it would bring his all-time earnings up to more than $2 million. And there you see some of the other leaders coming into the pit.
Benny Parsons and Donnie Allison, the 2 cars that are dueling for second place. They've just been feet apart, and now it's just a question of which one gets out of the pits the sooner and back up to speed. So this is literally racing in the pits. The 2 pit crews taking over the racing from the drivers. The seconds ticking by.
And they're changing rubber as well as getting fuel in this case, and there you pull out. And he's getting a little difficult to get out, but it's now a race in the pit lane.
There you have it.
And there's Benny Parsons taking the lead from him. Not, of course, leaving the racetrack, but that pit lane lead. Benny Parsons gets out before Donnie Allison of car number 1.
The pit stops were just about identical, 24 seconds flat. However, as you indicated, just as they were coming out of the pits, there was a very narrow opening there, but Benny Parsons got by Donnie Allison, and they're in precisely the relative positions they were when they came into the pit. You seldom see the pit stops that close. Here we have Cale Yarborough, the leader, into the pit. All of the leaders pitting under the green flag, making the pit stop and the work of the pit crew absolutely vital. This is the Junior Johnson crew. Junior Johnson, who himself was one of the top stock car drivers a good many years ago. Now the owner of Cale Yarborough's car has been a most successful association.
The same work being carried out in the Cale Yarborough car, outside rubber, tires being replaced there. You can see the drills being added there as they tighten up the wheels, and there he goes out in 17.4 seconds.
Okay, a fast pit stop for Cale Yarborough. That should keep him in the lead. Of course, he will not be the leader at the moment because there are other cars behind him on the same lap that have not come in yet. However, by the time all of the leaders, the cars on the same lap, have pitted, it should be Cale still out in front. Benny Parsons is the leader on the racetrack right now. Those are the official standings, with Donnie Allison second. However, as Cale gets back up to speed, we're going to see exactly how that develops. Cale Yarborough, born in Simmonsville, South Carolina. He's now moved to a town just a few miles away. Celebrated his 38th birthday just a couple of weeks ago. Lenny Pond has just pitted and gone back out again.
And there you see a real close run there with Benny Parsons and Donnie Allison up there. This very narrow racetrack. There's only one groove around this racetrack. Very difficult for overtaking and passing other cars. You can see them coming down this long back stretch here. It's car number 72. The car of Benny Parsons goes into turn 3.
Okay, the green flag is still out, racing at speed at about 145 to 150 miles an hour. We'll be live at Darlington until the finish of the Rebel 500. We'll be right back. Again, we're back live at Darlington, South Carolina, at the Darlington Raceway, the oldest of all the super speedways of the American South. It's a great stock car race, the Rebel 500, with Dave Marcus the leader. He's the leader, however, only because all of the other leaders have pitted under the green flag, and he is not. It means that Marcus must come in the next few laps. And that should mean that Cale Yarborough will go back into first place in the race. But at this point, that car number 2, driven by Dave Marcus, is the leader. And should a yellow flag come out at this moment, it would be a big break for him.
A big break for him. David Marcus, one of the consistent front runners in NASCAR racing, not one of the men who's won a great deal here in this circuit. That's kept the old brigade, with the exception of a couple of new names that have come in over the last 3 or 4 years, particularly, of course, Darrell Waltrip, who we'll be seeing here, and, of course, Benny Parsons, too, because since 1975, Benny Parsons has come up to the fore. But Dave Marcus is still hungry for the sort of success, and it looks to me like he's coming into the pits now. He's gone low on the racetrack, and there you see car number 2, David Marcus, heading towards pit lane now. This, of course, will take him off the front position, but he's still not too far away from the leader.
Wait a minute, is he coming in or not? Yes, here he comes, here he comes.
But in fact, okay. I think he was rather low in fuel because he went off the racetrack very early. He came off the racetrack early, surprisingly early. He came off as he went into turn 3. And you see him coming to a stop there. We've got a clock running on him at this time. You can see the right-hand corner of your picture.
They don't want to turn around that way.
So his problem will be staying on the same lap with the leaders because he came in so slowly, as you indicated. And then the length of the pit stop, of course, is added on to that. And that clock is running all too quickly for him at the moment. Dave Marcus was moving up the NASCAR ladder. He won his first race on the NASCAR Grand National Circuit in '75. The whole pit crew turning to push him out.
He had stalled his engine when he came in. I think he had run out of petrol. I'm sure he's run out of petrol. He had to coast in, and that's why they had to push that car to get it fired up. A racing engine gets very hot, and when it comes into the pit, it's very difficult to restart.
Okay, so the leader once again now will be Cale Yarborough in his car number 11. Second place, Benny Parsons. Third place will be number 1, Donnie Allison. Mr. Katamaki, whom you may have heard there setting up for something in the pits just a moment ago, has a story for us, I believe. Chris, come on in if you have.
Right, I have Travis Carter here. Travis, that last pit stop was very good. Would Marcus up to put you back in the lead. Cale is driving a backup car. Seems to be doing very well with it. What are his problems not having his regular car?
Of course, as you might well know, had an accident in practice on Thursday, and
damaged that car beyond repair and had to go back to the shop and prepare a super speedway car for here. And I think we're all surprised he's running that well.
Really, he's got one more stop. You're going to keep him out front?
We hope he can. Coach Cale's doing a tremendous job for him.
Okay, Travis Carter and Cale Yarbrough's been back to you, Jim.
Okay, discussing this man, the leader in the race in car number 11, Cale Yarbrough, who for the past 2 years has been the NASCAR national champion on the year-long points basis. Last year alone, he earned on the racetrack $447,000.
Well, that's a very profitable amount to be in there. You may have heard his crew chief talking about the fact that the car that you're looking at now, car number 11 of Cale Yarbrough, is his super speedway car. Now, this is considered a super speedway from the old days, but of course it's only 1.366 miles around. When they talk of a super speedway today, they talk about Talladega or Daytona, that's 2.5 miles round, and where they have average speeds of in excess 180 miles an hour. Round here, they're averaging around 156 miles an hour. They have a different car for that. Normally, this would be called a short track car. It's narrower in its track when it's a super speedway car. So for the short tracks, they have a wide track. That's to say, it's a wider car. The wheels are further apart, which gives it better traction. It allows the car to be sort of stuck to the road a great deal more, and they put the weight further forward in that car number 11 when it's a super speedway car, and of course that's what he's running here. He didn't expect to go this fast earlier today when I spoke to him and Jim spoke to him. He thought really he would have to be satisfied with running to last and running to finish. Instead of that, we see the man leading the race, and this gives you some indication of how versatile he is.
Cale Yarbrough started in 13th position in the 7th row of this race because he only qualified on the second day. The reason for that was the crash that they mentioned in the pits a moment ago. On the first qualifying day, we're going to take a look at what happened to Cale Yarbrough. Here he was, coming out of turn 4.
And as he went through turn 4, he really got the front end pushing, and you see him hitting that wall. Now, it doesn't look to be much of an impact, but remember, these racing cars, the car started to spin, it almost span towards the inside of the racetrack. He spun it the other way to avoid colliding with that pit wall that has been done before here, and Cale Yarbrough came out without a second impact. The first impact, certainly, he caused much damage to his car.
Okay, there he is, live again, live back out on the race course, Cale Yarbrough, the leader. That was the crash that took place when he was practicing on Thursday. That meant he couldn't qualify on that day. Second-day qualifiers, regardless of their speed, are always placed behind the first-day qualifiers. The same way that it worked for the Indianapolis 500. So that's why Cale Yarbrough started in 13th position, way back in the 7th row. Very quickly, however, moved up among the leaders, and now is the leader in the race and has been for a good long while. We have an attendance figure, 60,116, easily a record for the Rebel 500. Last year, for example, they had 48,000. Number of reasons for that. One of them, of course, being the weather, which is splendid. The temperature just about 80 degrees, if you've just joined us. Clear skies overhead, so they've come from all over the south. The infield is full of campers and vans and pickup trucks, and Ma and Pa and all the kids and all the relatives are here, for that matter. So Benny Parsons in car number 72 is in second place. He is still a couple hundred yards behind the leader, Cale Yarbrough. Third place is number 1, Donnie Allison, and then number 88, the defending champion, Darrell Waltrip. We'll be right back at Darlington. As the race goes on and we cover it for you live from Darlington, South Carolina, we're beginning to get that old Darlington feeling, a feeling that things are going too well. It's been a long time since the yellow flag, although earlier in the day we had quite a number of them. This track is known for what in some quarters is euphemistically known as action. In other words, there are a lot of accidents here because the track is very difficult to drive. It's very treacherous. There's a substance that they put on it to kind of seal it up after the wintertime and still in the cracks and something else seems to get oily. They call it bear grease. And there is the leader, Cale Yarbrough.
Cale Yarbrough is sitting up there in this shadow. It's quite difficult for a racing driver when the shadows get to be like this. They can't see the surface as well as they would normally be able to see it. The shadow goes over. If there's any oil on the racetrack, you just can't see it.
Whoa, boy. Did you see that? Cale Yarbrough almost going off the racetrack.
He really nearly came into contact there with David Marcus, who was coming up, and I guess he was going to lap David Marcus.
That's it.
And really, he nearly got himself nipped in there. This is what happens so often at Darlington. It takes a man of experience to collect the car again, because remember, they're doing in excess of 150 miles an hour when that sort of maneuver happens.
And of course, Dave Marcus will do everything to stay on the same lap with the leader there who's right behind him, because once again, we would reiterate, the yellow flag comes out and you're on the same lap. You have the opportunity to close up, and it's a brand new race to all intents and purposes. Well, Chris Economaki right now is down in the pits of the second place car. That's car number 72 of Benny Parsons. All right, Chris.
Okay, I'm here with Jake Elder. Jake, you're about 8.5 seconds behind the leader, and Donnie Allison and Dal Walter between down your neck. What can Benny do?
Well, I think right now, he just playing it cool. He knows he can run a little harder, but I don't see no use running a little harder right now.
You want to wait after the next pit stop to tell him to go?
10-4.
Okay, strategy from the pit. Jake Elder, the second place champion, making him play it cool. Back to you, Jim.
Okay, the story on the second place car right there of Benny Parsons. Cale Yarborough has put that lap on Dave Marcus now, so at this point, we have only 4 cars on the same lap. That would be 11, Cale Yarborough, 72, Benny Parsons, number 1, Donnie Allison, and number 88, Darrell Waltrip. Only those 4 cars on the same lap, so barring catastrophic incidents here, those should be the 4 cars to battle it out. Okay, we have there Donnie Allison, the red car, number 1, and Darrell Waltrip, number 88, and that has developed into quite a good battle now, and they're not too far behind the second place car, number 72 of Benny Parsons. Right now it's Waltrip defending his title in this race, trying to pass Donnie Allison, who was the leader for a good many laps before we came on the air live.
And here you see him drawing out to see if he can wedge himself past Donnie Allison. Not to be done in this lap as he goes round this turn 1 and 2 here. This racetrack is so narrow. They don't seem to get high in the racetrack. And look at him trying to overtake him there as he goes out turn 2, and he's done it. A clean pass by Darrell Waltrip. The green and white car, number 88, as he gets past the red car of Donnie Allison. It almost looks like Donnie's had a problem.
It certainly does. He's definitely slowing down.
He's going to come into the pit.
Yep. Donnie Allison will come into the pits, as his brother Bobby has been about 5 or 6 times today. Bobby just went back out again, by the way, if you can believe it, Jackie. He's been in the pits about 40 or 50 laps. But here is Donnie Allison, who led the race, as his brother did, who was just passed by Darrell Waltrip, and then after he was passed, suddenly seemed to slow down.
He's overshot his pit.
Yep.
He, in fact, has overshot his pits. Now he has to reverse back in. What an expensive pit stop this could be. Very slow indeed. He's now getting himself into position. That's cost him about 20 seconds.
Now we'll only have 3 cars on the same lap. That would be Yarborough and Benny Parsons and Darrell Waltrip. Chris Economaki, you saw there for a moment.
It looks as though...
Go ahead.
It looks as though Donnie Allison has a right front tire problem, which allowed him to get past. His brakes are not holding either. He overshot his pit. He had to come back, and that's a no-no. This could be a penalty before the race is over. Now they've shut the engine off. The trouble may be more serious, and Donnie is getting out of the car. We're going to try and get a word with him here as he gets out. He apparently knows that it's done for the day. He's unhooking his radios and so forth, and we'll catch him when he gets out of the car.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
While we're down with you, what happened to David Pearson?
The valve dropped in his engine earlier, and they put the car in the garage. He's out for the day.
Okay, that's a report on yet another of the famous drivers here today. Number 21, David Pearson, who is also out of it. The brothers Allison are now out of it as far as winning is concerned. Only 3 cars on the same lap. Cale Yarborough, the hometown favorite here. Benny Parsons, the one-time Detroit cab driver. And Darrell Waltrip, who's the defending champion. So an interesting story still shaping up. And there's not too much of a difference between second and third at the moment. Can they catch first? Well, we're going to find out, because, again, we're back at the Darlington Raceway in South Carolina, where the action is live. I'm Jim McKay with Jackie Stewart in our basic commentary position. There's how they stand. Cale Yarborough, then Benny Parsons, Darrell Waltrip. Only those 3 cars on the same lap. Then Dave Marcus and Richard Petty in 4th and 5th place. Down in the pit area right now, we have Chris Economaki. I believe he has Donnie Allison. Do you, Chris? Go ahead if you do.
That was a sudden decision. What was the trouble?
I broke a right front suspension, Chris. Something's been wrong with the car for a pretty good while. You know, it got to where it wasn't doing the same thing in the corner, and I'm sure what happened, just finally gave up. You know, I was trying to just run a good smooth time so I'd be there around the end. I feel like my car was as fast as anybody's here, and I just was trying to take care of it.
You look tuckered out, Donnie.
Well, I am a little tired. It's awful hot, but I could have made it easy the whole way.
Another sad day for Donnie Allison. Back to you, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Chris. You know, Jackie, there was some talk about brakes here, and you would think that this track would be extremely rough on brakes, and yet Benny Parsons told you and me before the race that he really doesn't have that problem.
No, he said he didn't have a great braking problem. This is one of the racetracks, and there you see, by the way, the man who's leading this race in the top left-hand corner, Cale Yarborough, in car number 11 as he goes round there. It's suggested that the braking situation as they go round here, they brake hard going into turn 1 and turn 2 here, or this is taken as one sweep, and then they brake again at the end of the back stretch going into turn 3. He says that it's not a heavy braking situation, and when he comes into the pits he doesn't get brake fade, because I imagine in these very heavy stock cars on a circuit like this where they have 2 pedal applications per lap on the brakes, so when they do come into the pits they could run into a brake trouble, but that doesn't seem to be the case, although it seems to have happened with Donnie Allison.
Halt. At the moment, still Cale Yarborough the leader. Benny Parsons in second place is still about 100 yards behind. But at these speeds, of course, that is virtually nothing. We're told there's a bit of debris there. You can see it, yeah. Something on the racetrack, but no yellow flag. I don't know whether the officials are not aware of it.
Well, that could be a problem if that is metal lying there and the car does go over it. It could either cut the tire, and of course these are safety tires with inner liners that are made specially for this kind of racing, but it could still cause a major problem. It could be tossed up into an oncoming vehicle, therefore could go right through the windshield, cause certain injury to a driver. It could be a problem. The officials obviously don't see it. It's obviously being witnessed by our ABC cameras here. No doubt the USAC officials may well be having the opportunity of looking at one of our monitors and advise the track officials to try and get out there and have it cleared.
If the yellow should come out because of that piece of debris or any other reason, they will close up and we could have a 3-car race to the finish. Remember that. Cale Yarborough at the moment, however, about as comfortable as you can ever be leading a race at the Darlington Raceway.
Well, you know, one of the other things that these cars are equipped with are two-way radios. It could be that one of the leaders there could advise the, perhaps his pit crew that there is debris, but of course someone like Cale Yarborough is not going to tell anybody, really. He's just going to keep avoiding it because he doesn't want a yellow. He doesn't want this field to bunch up behind him once again. So therefore there's a lot of strategy involved there, a lot of wisdom being used, but of course safety is of major importance, and those drivers certainly respect the situation of a possible accident at these very high speeds. Remember, they're going round here to qualifying speeds were extremely high, over 150 miles per hour, so therefore they've got to be aware that if something goes wrong, you know, it can happen so quickly. A man like Cale Yarborough has been right out of the racetrack on this very same corner, turn 1, and there you again see this chromium piece of metal that looks like as if it might be from a fender lying on the racetrack just in the shadow, and again, probably because of the shadow, it's not being so clearly seen by the other officials.
Okay, by the way, Dave Markins in car number 2, who led this race very briefly there a few minutes ago, has been going very slowly on the racetrack and is dropping way back. At the moment, it's Yarborough followed by Benny Parsons and Darrell Waltrip in the same lap. But in 4th place now, we have Richard Petty, who's down a lap. And in 5th place, car number 54, which is Lenny Pond. He also just 1 lap down. So those are the top 5 cars. Cale Yarborough here is the father of 3 youngsters. He's been involved in politics in Timmonsville and in that county over there. However, recently he moved over the county line. So if he's going to get back in politics, it'll have to be in a different county, perhaps even at the state level. He also owns a number of dry cleaning establishments, a couple of other businesses, flies his own airplanes, and is one of the more articulate and certainly one of the pleasantest drivers on this tour. If he wins this race, and only if he wins the race today, he will go past the 2 million mark. However, he can start piling that up very, very quickly because last year, as I said, he won almost $500,000. Now, that's not all his. That is the total winnings for the car and for the team, and the percentage for each driver will vary. So again, the standings show Yarborough, Parsons, and Waltrip. Then 1 lap down, Richard Petty and Lenny Pond. It's all live when it comes to you from Darlington in South Carolina. We're back again live at Darlington, where a sudden and startling development has taken place. Benny Parsons in car number 72, who had been trailing Cale Yarborough by a couple hundred yards for a long, long time, suddenly has closed that gap, and as you see, is right on the rear fender of the race leader. Lower cars being given the move-over flag in front of them, as Cale Yarborough and Benny Parsons are now hooked up in the duel, and in 3rd place, Darrell Waltrip is closing in on them.
In fact, I'm sure that Cale Yarborough, in fact, has gone slightly slower. That's why the others are closed up in the...
And look at Darrell Waltrip.
Darrell Waltrip really moving in there, trying to get through there, but this very narrow racetrack is causing them all that little bit of trouble.
All three of them have now successfully moved by J.D. McDuffie in car number 70, so they're out of traffic at the moment, and this will be pure NASCAR racing. It should be sensational. Here they come with Benny Parsons moving down low, trying to take the lead from Cale Yarborough, and he's done it. Yarborough now second, and Waltrip third. Let's see if Darrell will immediately try to set up to also pass Yarborough. Cale apparently having at least a small problem with his race car. What do you think it might be? Handling or engine or what?
I'm sure it's a handling problem. There's something wrong because he moved right over and he's allowed Darrell Waltrip. Cale Yarborough wasn't as fast as he normally does, and he's certainly taking a breather right now. He's allowing those two other drivers there, Benny Parsons and Darrell Waltrip, to really kick it up together, and they're going round there, but in fact Cale hasn't dropped back too far behind them.
No.
He's not letting them go.
He's staying in that draft, maintaining the draft, going at a slower number of revolutions per minute, saving his engine a little bit, and now he comes up very high, it seems, in turn 3 there.
There's something wrong with Darrell Waltrip's car. He's obviously in
Cale
trouble.
Yarborough, you mean?
Cale Yarborough.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with him. He's definitely got a handling problem.
Meanwhile, the duel for the lead now is Benny Parsons and Darrell Waltrip, cars number 72 and 88. They couldn't be much closer unless they were side by side, and that's what we could be setting up to see when they get to the final lap of this race. We've almost reached the 400-mile mark of this race. The last lap was turned in exactly 33 seconds. That's 149.018. That's very fast.
Very fast for a race because so many times they qualify fast, and of course they don't go as quickly in the race. They qualify, of course, at about 151 miles an hour, but this is a very fast speed for a race, and of course these two drivers going head-to-head. Right now, this is close racing. You can't get it any closer. Remember, very tight little circuit, 1.366 miles around. And although the racetrack's quite wide at parts, Jim, the racing surface itself is very, very narrow.
Remember now that we only have 2 cars on the same lap. Excuse me, no, we still have 3 cars on the same lap. Cale Yarborough dropping back, but not dropping back that quick. But those 3 cars, I should say, on the same lap. In 4th place, Richard Petty in number 43. In 5th place, Lenny Pond in number 54. And we're going to keep an eye on them because before this is over, everybody could lose that lap.
Well, Darlington is famous over the years for never allowing its spectators to fall asleep, and no one should fall asleep in front of the television set either, because anything can happen. When something gets this close, there's about 24 cars still running out of this original 36 that's starting the race, and of these 24, anything can crop up. One car can spin off, and because of the tightness of this racetrack, as we've seen earlier today, other cars can be involved. In so many cases in the past, it's been the lead cars that have been involved in dramas.
A crowd of more than 60,000 jammed into the Darlington Raceway here in South Carolina. We said they've come not only from all over the Carolinas, but from all over the South, and you also see license plates from as far away as Canada. Number 43 there is Richard Petty. We're documenting that he is in 4th place in the race. He's been driving a typical Petty race, except that his car simply has not seemed to be competitive. Is it possible, however, that at his age and with his glory and with his money, Richard may not have as much motivation in the past? Jackie, you're attuned to the emotional aspect of racing.
Well, certainly an observer or a critic could observe that Richard Petty, with what he has achieved in the past, the number of victories that he's had, about 185 of these great NASCAR championship events that he won, it could be that the edge has gone off. The spirit is not quite where it used to be. But of course, it's easy always to say that about a great driver who's had a great record, who's having a particular dry spell. It's happened before to other drivers. It's happened to David Pearson. It's happened to many others. It's happened to me from time to time. And there, you see Richard Petty coming into the pits just as we speak to him. He's had mechanical trouble, Jim, all this year. This could be a scheduled pit stop. The pit crew are certainly expecting him. It must have been on the radio that he advised them that he was coming in, but he looks as if he's coming in a little leisurely.
Okay. These breakdown problems, as Jackie indicated, have bugged this man, Richard Petty, the most famous of all the stock car drivers, all through the early part of the season of 1978. Bobby Allison has been the star of the early season, winning 2 500-mile races, the famous Daytona 500 and the Atlanta 500. He came here with hopes of winning this race when he sat on the pole today. There was a 16.9-second pit stop for Richard Petty. Bobby Allison, however, is out of this one. He's had mechanical problems all day. At one point, they entirely changed the transmission on his car, but since then he's had engine problems, and he's out of it. The leaders in the race now. Let's get back to them. It's Benny Parsons in number 72. Darrell Waltrip in number 88. Darrell still considered one of the young Chargers. He's 31 years old, but in any kind of racing today, that's still pretty young.
It certainly is, and certainly amongst these NASCAR drivers. In fact, both of these drivers that you're looking at there, Benny Parsons and Darrell Waltrip, are the new generation of winners in NASCAR. Gone are the days when it was just the very few, even the days where Richard Petty and David Pearson more or less monopolized victory lane, victory circle. Today it's certainly been brought in by drivers of this caliber. And of course we've seen Bobby Allison come in this year. We've seen Donnie Allison try his best. But these two drivers are consistently up front. People like Buddy Baker still waiting on the sidelines for the string of victories that can be achieved and have been achieved by somebody like Waltrip, for instance. And there you see Cale Yarborough coming into the pits as we see it now. So Cale Yarborough, number 11, we'll have to find out why he did slow down, why he allowed these others to pass him. He's changing outside rubber. He's having his windshield cleaned. At the same time, of course, they're filling it up with fuel, and our clock is running to gauge the time.
Okay, and we'll watch for the race leaders to put a lap on him, and they've done it. And now Darrell Waltrip has taken the lead from Benny Parsons. They went into turn one just as Cale was starting out of the pits. There they are. Darrell Waltrip has regained the lead in the race, the young man who won this race a year ago.
And a sensational win it was. It was a confused finish in this very race a year ago. Darrell Waltrip coming in and doing a very experienced maneuver for a very young driver. And again, here you see him today in the forefront. Car number 88, the green and white car driven by Darrell Waltrip, one of the young lions, one of the young superstars, very articulate, good-looking man, looks after his sponsors and everyone else for that matter, and becoming a great favorite for the NASCAR spectators.
So now it's Waltrip the leader, Benny Parsons second, and only those two cars are now on the same lap. One lap down, we have Cale Yarborough. 2 laps down, in 4th place is Lenny Pond, and behind him, also 2 laps down, is Richard Petty. That's the way the leaders stand in the Rebel 500. Less than 100 miles to go. We're going to be with you till it's over. Darrell Waltrip continues to lead the Rebel 500. We're in the final 100 miles of this race as we come to you live. Down in the pit area, Chrissy Economaki, our man down there, is near the Darrell Waltrip operation. Chris, I wonder if we can find out what their plans are and their needs are as far as pit stops are concerned from here on in.
Well, the story is that at lap 316, if it stays green, Darrell will make his last pit stop, and then his crew will change 2 tires. If it's yellow, they'll change 4. But it takes them a 4-tire change. These tires have been out in the sun. They've got the 4 tires covered up so that the stagger remains the same. They're planning very heavily on this last stop. They want to get him out very quickly. Waltrip was very critical of his pit crew after the Atlanta race, and they're on edge to see if they get him back in the race with a winning edge. Back to you, Jim.
All right, Chris. Well, lap 316 is just 11 laps from now, so we'll be keeping an eye on Darrell Waltrip for that all-important, what he hopes will be his final pit stop. He certainly was critical of his crew at one point. As a matter of fact, he put them into training.
He had them running, he had them jogging, and that's something new for the Southern boys to do some training for the pit crew, because some of them aren't as lean and hungry as one would expect. They're pretty heavy in some cases. Of course, they've got to be pretty strong to carry these big wheels and tires and churns of petrol around. But Darrell Waltrip, of course, very conscious, one of the new generation of drivers, one of the safety-conscious drivers, one of the few men that thinks a lot about safety, about his uniform, about the type of driving gloves, driving shoes, crash helmet, and everything else that he wears. I like to see this. I've obviously been very keen in safety all the way through my career. It's nice to see one of the new drivers thinking the same way, Jim.
Well, as you indicated, it's kind of tough to keep in shape here in the American South. You, as a man who has not only a craving but a deep love for pecan pie with vanilla ice cream, would know better than most that it's tough to keep the pounds off down here.
Well, it's very difficult. Every time I come down here, I think I indulge in all the pecan pie that exists in the South.
We got to get you going on grits, however. You don't quite understand about grits with the butter and the salt and pepper, but enough of that. Here's the leader in the race. Darrell Waltrip still very narrowly leading Benny Parsons. Could Benny Parsons be saving a few revs, just hanging in behind him?
Well, I think he probably has no reason right now to go for the lead. He's obviously watching very carefully the performance of Darrell Waltrip's car. Remember this, these race cars don't handle the same in every corner. Each race car has a character and a personality of its own. Some are slightly better than others in different parts of the racetrack, and you saw there. Look at this now. I think he's coming into the pits. Darrell Waltrip just been passed by Benny Parsons. He's coming into the pits early, under the green. Chris suggested he was waiting for 316 laps. We're now looking at about 309 laps. As Darrell Waltrip comes into the pits now under the green, this could be crucial.
Okay, it certainly could, and Benny Parsons now is the sole leader in this race, and we'll see if he can put a lap on Darrell Waltrip on this pit stop. The likelihood is that he will. Then he would be the only car on the same lap, and of course, he has obviously a necessary pit stop coming. There it is, 15.7 pit stop for Waltrip.
Well, the training that the Waltrip team have done with regard to their jogging and their training is in fact paying off. But here is our leader now coming into the pit. Benny Parsons, he also is coming into the pit. So therefore, the two men who have obviously got to look after each other have come in at the same time, so there's no detriment. Remember, 15.7 seconds it was for Darrell Waltrip in this new super fit team of his. It will be interesting to see how this car goes with regards to it stopping the pit.
Okay, now remember that the time you spend decelerating coming in the pit and accelerating coming out. Look at that. Exactly the same to the 10th of a second. However, as we said, the deceleration and acceleration time will also can make a difference. Here comes Darrell Waltrip into turn one. Looks like he will pass. He will pass Benny Parsons. Ooh, and he made a rather bold move to get by that back marker. He has passed Parsons. Darrell Waltrip has taken the lead as Parsons is still getting back up to speed. So the acceleration-deceleration factor worked in favor of Waltrip.
Indeed it did, but it's amazing the accuracy of these mechanics. The accuracy of putting... Oh, and there's something... A driver came in off of turn 4, went into the pits far too abruptly there as we look down the long pit straight here. I thought that was a very dangerous move that carried on there. He really came from the high groove on the racetrack, and in fact, it's Buddy Baker, who came up from really on the fast groove, coming off of turn 4, shot with great abruptness into the pit lane. If there had been any other cars below him on the racetrack, surely it would have caused a mighty accident. But Buddy Baker obviously was looking over his shoulder in the rear view mirror. It was a very quick stop for Buddy, and there he goes out the pit lane.
What it looked like was a guy in the outside lane suddenly making a left turn on a city street, right?
And I don't believe that's allowed in your American highways, is it?
Not normally. So Darrell Waltrip, trying to win his second Rebel 500 in a row, is in pretty good shape towards that situation. He has taken a pit stop that he hopes will be his final one. Waltrip the leader, Benny Parsons second, and we've got a yellow flag. There is the lead car of Darrell Waltrip. However, his lead is going to diminish almost certainly. We're operating under the yellow flag right now, and they had to give him a little push to get him out of there. Operating under the yellow flag, and that's going to give, it appears, two cars a chance to close up on him. First of all, Benny Parsons is in second place, but also Cale Yarborough. Cale had dropped a lap behind. However, when the two leaders made pit stops under the green, Cale got back on the same lap. It looks like it'll be a three-car race again when the green flag comes out. So, a most interesting afternoon and a live one coming to you on ABC's Wide World of Sport. Jim McKay here with Jackie Stewart, and there is the green and white car again of Darrell Waltrip. We're going to check in with a good friend of mine and of yours, of course, my colleague Frank Gifford, who is back in the studio in New York, and we'll return to the racing. Okay, Frank? We're back again live at Darlington, and at this instant, Cale Yarborough has just blown his engine. He had got back into contention, was battling for the lead with Benny Parsons and Darrell Waltrip, when suddenly, between turns 1 and 2, the engine blew. The yellow flag comes out immediately, and that sets up, once again, a two-car race, possibly to the finish. Here's how it happened.
And really, as he went into turn 1 there, he had lifted off, he had put his foot back in it again, and suddenly, obviously, a hole in the piston, the smoke belching out the back of his car as he goes through turn 1, obviously dropping oil. Obviously, the car beginning to snake there. You saw the back end breaking loose, but there was so much smoke that the rest of the cars behind him obviously saw the warning and obviously saw the smoke and stayed away from the oil streak. So this could certainly slow up this race and allow bunching once again. We're certainly under the yellow.
We are under the yellow flag. Less than 50 laps to go. Depends how long it's going to take them to probably spread down something to sop up that oil. Right now, we're going to go to the pit area and Chrissy Kanamaki.
Okay, Cale Yarborough, and the way he started racing was in a soapbox derby car, and he coasted in all the way a few moments ago. He's just getting out of his driving gear. Had he won win today, and it looked like he may have, his career earnings would have crested the $2 million mark. But such is not the case. He crashed on Thursday, wrecked his original car. This is a backup machine. Look at him, hot, sweaty, and tired, getting his harness off, and really having a word with him as he climbs out of the car. A disappointed man whose hometown is just down the street, and the stands are full of many of his neighbors and friends. A tough break for a great competitor, two-time champion Cale Yarborough. Well, Cale, it wasn't to be. How pooped are you?
Well, I'm pretty tired, Chris. Engine let go on us, but car ran good all day. We had one tire that equalized on us and put us out of running, but other than that, I was well satisfied with the car.
But for a backup car, I thought it did remarkably well, Cale. Remarkably well.
I was pleasantly surprised, Chris. The car did run real good, and I think we had a good chance of winning the race, but the tire put us out of business. But you know, this is the first race we hadn't finished in 40-some races, so I can't complain.
Cale, everybody talked beforehand about the slipperiness of the track and the danger. How was it for you on the raceway?
Well, it's mighty slippery. You know, it's Apollo's leader type thing. I don't think it's been a very good show for the fans. It's just, you just had to slow up for the slow cars and wait till you got room to go. You couldn't pass anybody anywhere.
Well, there's always the next one, Cale.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, back to you, Jim.
Well, Cale made a very good point there, and kind of a tribute to his pit crew, saying that this is the first race in 40-some races that he has not been able to finish. He will not finish this one, however. He will not win his first Rebel 500. He will not pass the $2 million mark today. We'll be right back. We're back again live at Darlington, where we're beginning to anticipate a battle to the finish between those two lead cars, 72, Benny Parsons, and 88, Darrell Waltrip. We're still in the yellow at the moment, however, so we're going to return to New York for a few minutes to Frank Gifford. Here we go, Frank. All right, we're back again at Darlington. The yellow flag is still out. The race we're watching is live. It's the Rebel 500. We're nearing the closing stages now of what has shaped up into a two-car race between car number 72, Benny Parsons, and car number 88, Darrell Waltrip. Now, Benny Parsons is a 36-year-old former taxi cab driver from Detroit who, for several years now, however, has made his home in Ellerbe, North Carolina, where he is perhaps its best-loved citizen, very active in civic affairs and things like that. Known for his consistency more than his winning, although he's won a lot of races, and that kind of bugs Benny Parsons. In second place, Darrell Waltrip, a rather emotional, charged-up young man. Jim McKay with Jackie, the leader in the race, is Benny Parsons in car number 72, but right behind him is car number 88, Darrell Waltrip. This is the story right now. Only these two cars on the same lap. Nothing goes wrong if the cars hold up. It could be this way until the final lap, in fact, to the final turn. Very often, whoever is in second place will sit there and wait to, as they call it down here, slingshot the final car on the final corner of the race. Benny Parsons, as we said, is 36 years old. He has been very slowly making his way up the NASCAR ladder for a number of years. In 1975, he kind of exploded briefly when he won the famous Daytona 500 in a thrilling finish. Since then, he's been making his mark in the more consistent way. In 1975, he won only that one race. In 76, he won 2 races. Last year, he won 4 races. His total's now up to 9. Last year, his earnings on the racetrack were just under $300,000. So he is really in a position where you would expect his career to blossom into its best year right now.
And at his age, 36 years of age, seems to be an age where down in the Southern Trail, a young driver is a driver who charges, who makes some mistakes, who, while he's learning the trade, does make errors. And by the time he's reached 36 or 37 years of age, he's got rid of the rough edges, he's got rid of the exuberance of youth, and he's settling into a pattern of driving with some conservatism. The man behind him, Darrell Waltrip, is 31 years of age. He's a man who doesn't make many mistakes. He's very mature for his age. And as far as I'm personally concerned, I think the early 30s are the best years for a racing driver. He's old enough to be wise, yet young enough to be strong. And if he keeps his head together, Darrell Waltrip's got a lot ahead of him. The man right now who's ahead of him is no easy man to pass, however, particularly at Darlington.
No question of that. Darrell Waltrip's career has paralleled Benny Parsons in many ways, although he's 5 years younger. He won his first race in 1975. He won 2 of them on the Grand National Circuit. He won another one in 76, and last year, suddenly, he won 6 races, including this one, the Rebel 500, and a total of $276,000. So they're very even in their earnings, in the number of races they've won, in their driving abilities, and they couldn't be more even in the race right now. There are less than 50 miles to go. Remember, it's a 500-mile race. It's been a long and grueling afternoon, and one thing that could be a small factor, Jackie, is the fact that Benny Parsons this week has apparently a pinched nerve or something with a disc in his back that's been resulting in his right arm at times going kind of numb on him. At the end of a 500-mile race, that could make a difference.
Well, certainly you don't want any physical handicap around this racetrack. The temperature today is hot. It's on about the 80-degree mark. Inside the race car, the temperature certainly will be up around, I would imagine, about 120 degrees, maybe a little more than that. The drivers themselves will lose 5 or 6 pounds of weight without any problem at all. It'll just seep out of them. They'll be soaking wet when they come out. As these 2 cars go round here towards the end of the race, 2 experienced drivers, however, not the type of drivers who will show their errors through lack of strength or allowing their concentration to lapse.
One thing you can be sure, at the end of this race, there's going to be a large cheer from the entire population of one or another small town in America, either Ellerby, North Carolina, or Owensboro, Kentucky.
Well, it's a great southern event, this, and of course Darlington's a place very close to the heart of so many. It was the Southern 500, the race in September that started this super speedway around here, but the Rebel 500 has certainly taken a very strong hold in motor racing, and this Darlington racetrack gets the respect of drivers and spectators alike.
Okay, and the situation remains the same. It's Waltrip stalking Parsons as they move through slower traffic. Right now they're passing Richard Childress, who's been driving a good part of the race without the hood on his car, or as you call it on your side of the ocean, the bonnet.
The bonnet was lost off that car, and the hood, as you Americans call it, in a little accident. He had a problem. He spun out, and he had a problem in turn number 2. He came into contact with the wall, and the car has not been quite the same since. And there you can see it showing the battle scars of Darlington. As we look out of our commentary position here, Jim, as I watch each car passing, I hardly see a car without some mark of some kind or another, some scar from another vehicle or from the wall. We look at Richard Petty's car, and we see that he's been up against the wall. We look at Dave Martin's car, it's badly marked. Bobby Allison's car, although been in and out of the pit many, many times, is also marked, so he's had contact. As I look out here, I only see about 20 cars. And look at this in traffic. Confusion in traffic as Darrell Waltrip tries to take the lead.
Side by side, headed into turn 1. They couldn't be closer. Waltrip's going to get the lead. He's got it.
What a daring move. What a daring move, because in traffic around this racetrack, although it seems to be quite wide, it's really only raced upon by about 12 feet.
There goes Parsons after Waltrip again. Again, they're side by side. And Benny Parsons has retaken the lead. Fantastic racing.
Terrific.
Fantastic racing. Terrific. Still quite a number of laps to go here. 338 laps gone. We have 28 laps left in the race. 29 laps make that.
And right now, there he goes, Benny Parsons. Look at this, coming out of turn 4. The traffic as they go along here, and we see the replay in slow motion. As they come under traffic, you see the car just coming on the right-hand side of your screen, the white car. Look at it duck out there. That's Darrell Waltrip. And the left-hand side of your car there, the street there, as you've got Benny Parsons. Look as they come past there, side by side as they go into turn 1. And now we're back live because Benny Parsons retook that lead going into turn 3. What a tremendous lap that was.
Exactly right. Waltrip taking the lead in turn 1 from Parsons. Parsons retaking it in turn 3. It's sensational racing, and it really is kind of a rehearsal for the way to finish this race is setting up. Stay with us. Okay, we have 25 laps and a little more left to go in the Rebel 500, and they're still the same. Benny Parsons in 72, leading Darrell Waltrip. Car number 88. Let me run down the top 10 cars for you as they stand right now. In third place is Lenny Pond in car number 54. He's a lap down. 2 laps down. In fourth and fifth place, we have Dave Marcus and Richard Petty. In sixth place, 3 laps down, Buddy Baker. In seventh place, 7 laps down, Dick Brooks. In 8th place, 7 laps down, Al Holbert. In 9th place, Ricky Rudd, 9 laps down. And listen to this. In 10th place in the race, but 42 laps behind, is Bobby Allison. He has kept that car going. They took it back in the garage and changed the entire transmission at one point after he led the race, after having sat on the pole. He's been in and out. He had a big engine problem. They went back in. I don't know what they did then, but it was a major problem. But he's going to finish in the top 10, it looks like.
Well, they say they changed the entire transmission, and this is the kind of mechanical work that's carried out in the back of the pit lane here in these NASCAR events. It's not before, but many times before that they've changed engines. The entire transmission has been changed, axles have been changed, and everything else. Right now, I count 20 cars on the racetrack as we go down here. So this gives you some idea of the pace here around this very tiny little tight track, 1.366 miles. And you look here and you see some wide expanse of racetrack. It's about 55 feet wide, in fact, around the corners, although the front stretch is about 72 feet wide. But that racing surface is very narrow indeed, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're racing only on that groove. Probably it's at the most about 15 feet wide, and that's what these drivers have got to work with.
We mentioned that Bobby Allison is in the top 10, although he's 42 laps down. You might wonder why they keep putting the car back on the racetrack. Of course, the reason in his case particularly is that he is battling for the lead in the year-long NASCAR point chase. He's in second place at the moment, and those points are very important to him now and later in the season. At the moment, the important situation here, though, is still this one. It just goes on and on, as you can see. The tension begins to build because, you know, on the last lap, possibly on the last turn, whoever's second may have the advantage, and pretty soon you have to decide whether you want to be first or want to be second, and sometimes you don't have a choice. If you're in the lead, the other guy can continue stalking you.
And of course, one of the things you're looking at right now is slow traffic, getting through other cars, and if this happened at the wrong time on the last lap or on the last two laps, then dramatically the race order could change. So the drivers have not only got to race the racetrack in these closing laps, they've got to look at their strategy. They've got to look well ahead of themselves with about 1 or 2 laps to go to see where other slower cars may be on that racetrack when they get into that last race down the back stretch heading for turn 3 and 4, because you very seldom can slingshot coming off turn 4 and get to the finishing line first on this racetrack. Of course, last year there was a sensational finish in this race where Darrell Waltrip, and look how close they are right now. It looks like they even came into contact. Darrell Waltrip almost ran into the back of Benny Parsons as they were high on the racetrack going through there in turn 1 and 2. Really, the drivers have to concentrate immensely at this time, and these long shadows that we're looking at on the racetrack right now certainly don't help a driver's perception as far as distance is concerned.
And now there are going to be 18 laps left in the race as they cross the start-finish line. You talk about the shadows, Jackie, as they come down the home straight, it looks like they're almost looking right into the setting sun. Can that be a problem to them?
Well, it certainly can. In many racetracks around the world, we've seen situations where drivers have been dazzled by reflections and certainly by the low sun. I remember a great American driver who used to work with ABC and Wide World of Sports, Phil Hill, used to carry goggles around with him, taped up with little slits only to be seen through the tape, because when he drove in the Le Mans 24-hour race or in the Sebring 12-hour race, when the sun was going down, he could just view through the little slit so that he didn't get as much of that strong sunlight as possibly he could have got with more open goggles.
Phil Hill, I'm sure, is one of the most interested followers of Mario Andretti's quest for the World Driving Championship this year. Phil is not only the most recent, but the only American ever to have won the World Driving Championship, and that was in 1961, coming up on 17 years ago. You can be sure if Mario's in that battle coming down to the finish, Phil might make it to one or the other of those races.
Well, I think so, and of course we'll be covering ABC, Wide World of Sports will be at Monaco for the Grand Prix on the 7th, same-day coverage with ABC from the 7th of May from Monte Carlo, where I will be there, probably along with Keith Jackson, although Jim McKay will be somewhere else.
At the Kentucky Derby, as a matter of fact. Okay, it's still Benny Parsons in the lead, Waltrip second. We have less than 16 laps to go. There's Bobby Allison, who, as we said, is 42 laps behind the leader, but in 10th place and will pick up points toward what he hopes may be a national championship driving year. The race going on, we now have, as I say, coming up on 15 laps left in the race. 15 laps now left. We'll be back. In a moment, there will be 11 laps left to go in the Rebel 500, and still Benny Parsons pursued by Darrell Waltrip. They're the only cars with a chance to win this race, barring some catastrophic incident in the race. It looks like those two will be going to the finish line. While we're away, Waltrip made a slight move as if he might be going to try to pass Parsons, but he backed off then again. Now he's still about the same distance behind him, about, what would you say, 50 or 60 feet. And the question is, who will be in front of the finish line? It's interesting that they are... Hey, he's beginning to drop back now. Suddenly, Benny Parsons has lengthened it out a little bit on Darrell Waltrip.
That really was too much of an opening. I would have thought he just opened a little too far out there. It looks to me like Darrell Waltrip could maybe be in a little trouble, and now he's really getting locked up in... He's getting locked up in slow-moving traffic. This could be expensive. Behind
Blackie Wangeren. Now he gets past Wangeren, who earlier was involved marginally in an accident between turns 1 and 2. However, Benny Parsons stretching it out a little bit. These two contrasting personalities. Benny about as placid and consistent a personality as you find on the tour. Darrell Waltrip, extremely intelligent, very articulate and friendly, but also a very explosive young man who's been known to criticize race officials, racetracks, and recently even his own pit crew. He put him into training after a very recent race, said, you guys have got to go out, you've got to jog, you've got to do laps, you've got to be in good physical condition. And so they seem to be today. But as for the physical condition of his car, I would think that might be in question at the moment.
Well, right now, he's a good 250 yards to 300 yards behind our leader, Benny Parsons, and this is the car you're looking at right now. Benny Parsons, who on his last lap, lapped at 148.567 miles an hour. So close, with only 8 laps to go to the end, a very high speed. So the car performance of Benny Parsons is certainly not deteriorating, although it's now a very big task for one Darrell Waltrip to catch up this number of yards that he's lost, and he only lost them in 1 lap in a matter of about half the racetrack. He suddenly dropped back considerably.
We might take the interval between the two cars and then see if it lengthens or gets smaller. At the moment, it seems to have stayed about the same for the last lap or two. Doesn't seem to be losing any more. But Benny Parsons is still a clear leader over Waltrip. Waltrip, who led earlier, who won the race last year. Difficulty, there's no obvious problem with his car. What do you get, 2.9, 2 and 9/100 seconds?
I've got 2.9 at this time, and now they're heading towards heavy traffic. There's going to be an interesting scene within a lap or two's time here as Benny Parsons comes up this front stretch. You can see the cars have just gone out of our picture here as Benny Parsons comes up to lap slower cars as he goes into turn 1 and 2.
Well, looks like Waltrip may have gained marginally from 2.9 to 2.1.
Benny Parsons
looks pretty much the same.
He got past these two cars very cleanly. It's now being left to Darrell Waltrip to get past the two cars as he enters turn 3 there. Benny Parsons now getting into slower cars.
A lot of them. He's got a lot of cars to pass right now.
And coming up behind Richard Petty also.
Okay. Both of the leaders in traffic in the closing lap, coming down to 5 laps to go. A quick report from Chris Economaki in the Waltrip pit.
Well, we just talked with Nick O'Lell of the pits, and the faces are long drawn down here. They say the chassis is too loose.
And the difference, however, has come down a little bit. 1.54.
1.54 seconds as they come around now with only a few laps to go. The usual exciting finish in this NASCAR racing. Nobody ever quite knows what's going to happen right to the flag.
Less than 4 laps to go in the race. Benny Parsons still the leader. And again, he's got 3 cars in front of him there to pass. One of them, Richard Petty. Another one, Bobby Allison. He passed that one very slow car. That was no problem as that car pulled down low. Now it moves up a little high, and it's in front of Darrell Waltrip. As you can see, Waltrip now will have to make that move. And here comes Parsons about to put a lap on Richard Petty. You don't put many laps on Richard Petty in this racing circuit. But Parsons is doing it right now. Less than 3 laps to go. Waltrip is definitely closer than he was 3 or 4 laps ago. Whether he can make up the difference, we get 1.5 still. So he did not make up anything on that lap. However, if he's got any extra horsepower that he can find and can solve that handling problem, he still could catch him. It's not quite over yet. You have to say it's almost certainly for Benny Parsons, but it certainly isn't over.
Well, Well, nothing is over at a racetrack like Darlington, the most famous of all these super speedways, one that perhaps has more nostalgia, more history, and of course more scars on it than any other racetrack in the American trails.
Okay, still Parsons by about 100 yards now over Darrell Waltrip. Whether Benny is nursing the car a little bit, taking it just a little bit easier, we don't know. He's the only one who would know that. But just bit by bit, Waltrip is making up some ground, but he's going to have to make a bold move and make it right now, because the white flag will be coming out. That'll mean one lap for Benny Parsons to win the Rebel 500. The white flag is out. Parsons just having to circumnavigate this track one more time.
Obviously now he can't afford to make any mistake. You're watching a driver conservatively weaving his way, threading the needle on this backstretch as he goes into turn 3 now. Slower cars ahead of him. He's obviously going to pay extra attention. Darrell Waltrip, on the other hand, is trying to make up as much ground as he can, but he's not going to make it this time as they come out of turn 4.
Here it is. For Benny Parsons, it's victory. The checkered flag is out. For the past week, as we said, with that pinched nerve in his back, a numb right arm from time to time, at age 36, Benny Parsons begins to fulfill all the promise that he has ever showed, and he showed plenty of it, starting with his surprise victory in 1975 in the Daytona 500. Second place in the race goes to Darrell Waltrip. So it wasn't King Richard Petty who won today, and it wasn't the Duke of Spartanburg, David Pearson, and it wasn't the two-time champion of the last 2 years, Cale Yarborough. It wasn't Bobby Allison who sat on the pole, or his brother Donnie who led the race. It was Benny Parsons, and there is the crew of car number 72 ready to celebrate, to whoop it up with their driver, who has to be a very weary young man. But I guess anybody who drove a cab for 12 hours a day is not going to be exhausted, particularly when victory and a lot of money is at the end of the line. Benny Parsons, the victor. Waltrip was second. Third place to Lenny Pond. Fourth to Dave Marcus. Fifth to Richard Petty. Sixth was Buddy Baker. All this unofficial. Seventh was Dick Brooks. Eighth was Al Holbert. Ninth, Ricky Rudd. And 10th, Bobby Allison, 42 laps down, but in 10th.